so you're dug in on San Carlos. Of course, San Carlos water known as Bomb Alley then and now, and the Argentines were coming in and attacking the ships in San Carlos water in Bomb Alley. Len, did you see that? Did you see what was happening there?
Yeah, I was. My position was dug up on top of Windy Gap, and digging in, you could actually see the Argentine aircraft, and they were level with us coming down the valley. And the first time they come down, everybody opened fire on them from 2 para the other side. And in the end, they had to check fire on us because the problem being rounds were landing on each of us. We couldn't hit an aircraft at that speed, but we all wanted to have a go at it. But you was watching go, and surreal as it is, at one stage 2 aircraft came down and watched them, and the pilots were, "All right, boys," and they were actually waving to us as they would come down Bomb Alley, down to have a go at the ships.
Your memories of that time?
Well, I had a grandstand view, so I was looking basically at all the ships, and these pilots, brave pilots, coming in at 0 feet, dropping their bombs, and watching them, some of them just getting blown to pieces because they got the rapiers going. At first I thought they were firing some form of airburst, and what it was the jet disintegrating when one of these missiles hit them. So
and are you being attacked at this point, Mick? Is there any mortars coming in or
we weren't, our position, I was actually in the lens section, our position wasn't on direct fire, it was just that the aircraft were ignoring us, of course, and going straight for the ships. So obviously for the supply line, and they maybe even thought some of our soldiers were still on those ships. And they were just sometimes below us, as Len said, sometimes level with us. Okay, and they just kept coming past. It was the air raid warning red. And I also remember at the time, it was air raid warning red for so many times that people even started to go, "Oh, not again." Yeah, we had a grandstand view, as Tony said, of a battle that, although it didn't involve us, was going on. We had a grandstand view of it, the aircraft versus the ships.
They targeted the ships, the lifeline for the task force.
How the British task force commanders have underestimated the determination of the Argentine pilots.
Ship after ship in San Carlos water was hit by Argentinian aircraft. The British christened the bay Bomb Alley.
This was the first time I'd seen ships sunk by enemy action in my life.
I was watching Antelope, and suddenly a huge explosion in front of my eyes. Large parts of her superstructure flew up into the air.
I remember that explosion echoing round, and then followed by a series of other explosions that went all night.
It was a shock to see one's own ship explode, burn and sink before one's eyes.
What came home to me probably midway through the conflict was the sheer number of ships that we were either losing or were taking damage. And collectively, I think we all thought and discussed really when would it be HMS Plymouth's time, because there were not many ships that were going unscathed at a particular point. And then the day came, we were attacked by 4, 5 or even 6 Argentinian aircraft. We knew pretty quickly that the air raid that was coming in was for us. We'd all hit the deck. I remember myself on the deck of the ship. You could feel the shudders rippling through the ship, the bombs hitting, the rockets flying through the superstructure, and of course the cannon fire that was hitting the ship all down one particular side. Because of course we had 2 unexploded 1,000-pound bombs sitting on the back end that needed to be made safe. That really was a time to reflect, because of course it was still a danger to the ship, could have blew up at any time.
you're a fast jet pilot, you've got to be good, or you're dead. I mean, it doesn't matter which country you come from, because they've got to have bloody good reactions, they've got to be good. And the Argentinians, if you imagine, what are they, sort of racing drivers, polo players? I mean, what better sort of chap to have sitting in a fighter?
They knew what they were doing. They knew how to attack the ship. So they all lined up, one after the other, and came up the stern. At that time, the captain ordered full speed. We tried to manoeuvre to get our 20mm to bear, but it seemed whichever way the captain turned the ship, there was an aircraft lined up on the stern, ready to come in.
What quality were your opponents?
We've mentioned the Air Force, who were extremely courageous and very good.
They came in again. Bombs thunder into the water yards from our ships.
HMS Plymouth, assigned to protect, only just dodged 2 bombs herself. After that first day, the defences were reassessed. Machine guns were strapped along the ship's sides. Even jets, when they dived below the missiles, put themselves within range. The Bofors guns aboard HMS Fearless claimed 2 planes. The gun crews, mostly 17 years old, soon had more battle experience than anyone else in the Navy.
Sophisticated electronic watchdogs to protect us all. It's odd then that we get the greatest comfort from the old Second World War Bofors guns by the bridge. The crew on Bofors port gun have already claimed 2 hits and another probable, and we want to believe them. Up on the decks now, almost as an afterthought, general-purpose machine guns have been mounted by Royal Marines commandos as additional air defense. Odd, we thought, with so many millions of pounds worth of missiles around us, that such a makeshift weaponry should be necessary. But fired together and in the same direction, and a pilot would have to fly through a wall of lead.
The Galahad was lightly armed, and the Welsh Guards had no defence against air attack.
They actually hadn't seen the Argentine Air Force at work, because for the 5 days they'd been there, the bad weather had kept the Argentine Air Force away. So they hadn't seen how deadly those guys could be. I can tell you, if I'd been on board that ship, I'd have swum ashore rather than stayed there.
To start with, there was nothing there, and we just, we waited. It was almost dreamlike, and how can this possibly be happening? And then very soon, the realisation hits, and there it was going on around us.
Jets just came pouring over the hills. They were firing at us and dropping bombs and firing rockets, but they were so low, so small and so fast that you think there's just no way we're going to hit them. We, of course, were shooting back. There was all the troops that had got ashore on the hills around were shooting up, and the noise was just colossal.
It was fantastic, terrifying sight. Aircraft flying and firing at the ships.
The British warships were being relentlessly targeted from every direction.
When you're on a warship and you hear over the broadcast, brace, 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 that means you're about to be hit. And I suppose, quite unashamedly, you think, please not me.
You could hear the countdown over the radar, 4 planes approaching from the east, 25 miles, 24 miles, and it's seconds apart because obviously they're going so fast. 5 miles, 3 miles, and you think they're coming straight over us. Are they going to attack us? Have they got Exocet? And then they'll say, overhead, and you just close your eyes, and then you'll hear 1 mile to the west, and you breathe out because it's gone.
The news coming in wasn't really good about what was happening. We didn't realise quite how many boats would be hit with bombs that weren't going to explode.
The enemy were flying so low to avoid our anti-aircraft systems that many of their bombs weren't exploding when they hit our ships. Making the bombs safe now fell into the hands of the diving team. Tony and William were just 100 metres away from HMS Antelope when an unexploded bomb detonated.
Everyone hit the floor because it was so close. The UXB on Antelope had blown up while the Royal Engineers were defusing it. When a 1,000-pound bomb goes off that close to you, inside the confines of an aluminium ship, it is a shock. It's not just an explosion, I mean, it's huge.
Tragically, one of the Royal Engineers who was attempting to defuse the bomb was killed in the explosion.
Burney successfully removed the bomb from the Galahad. Naval disposal teams cradled unexploded bombs off 6 other ships. If these bombs had detonated on impact, the British campaign would have been stopped in its tracks. Then 4 days after the landings, the Argentinians struck another devastating blow. Exocet missiles hit a vital British supply ship, the Atlantic Conveyor. It was carrying 4 giant Chinook helicopters. 3 were destroyed. It was perhaps the single greatest setback of the war.
I had been preparing a plan to move my brigade forward onto the high ground overlooking Stanley, and the key part of that plan was 4 Chinook helicopters.
In the rush to pack equipment onto the task force ships, crucial errors had been made.
The destruction of that one ship changed the tempo of the whole war as far as we're concerned. We would have to walk.
They took off from airfields in southern Argentina, equipped with Exocet missiles, and went in search of revenge. HMS Sheffield was on the lookout for enemy aircraft, well forward of the main British fleet.
Blind, AWOL, 1 probable target, 01010. Go back, direct the radar.
The sea was very calm, we were looking out to sea, and I thought that it looked like a torpedo was on its way because the sea was shimmering and shaking, if you like. So I said I thought there was a torpedo. The pilot also had trained his glasses around to the same spot, and he said, no, it's an Exocet. The officer watch
and other members of the bridge crew started to take cover. But I remember myself and the second officer of the watch becoming transfixed to the missile on its way in, which really does amaze me now when I come to think of it, but we watched it almost to the point of impact when we quickly huddled together and dropped to the floor.
I think it's terrible. I mean, who would have thought it came to this, and to hear a ship go down, one of ours as well, when it is bad.
Was it that much of a shock?
It was to me, yes. I didn't think it would end up with one of ours actually being sunk.
Fewer of them went off than...
Estallaron menos bombas de las esperadas, casi la mitad. Si hubieran explotado, nos hubieran derrotado. Si las espoletas de las bombas hubiesen sido correctamente armadas, no me cabe ninguna duda de que hubiésemos perdido. Hubiésemos perdido el doble de buques de guerra, anfibios y mercantes.
A pesar de los desaciertos y de las bombas que no explotaron, los aviones argentinos debilitaron a la flota británica. Después de 5 días de intenso combate, el almirante Woodward estuvo a punto de comunicar a Londres que la guerra estaba perdida.
Consideré seriamente la posibilidad de llamar a casa para decir que habíamos perdido. La situación parecía indicar que pronto estaríamos fuera de juego. En algún momento hay que comenzar a pensar en terminar con todo. El 14 de junio escribí en mi diario las palabras: si los argentinos soplaran sobre nosotros, nos derrumbaríamos. Si los argentinos hubiesen resistido otras 2 semanas, tal vez hubieran triunfado.
2 años después, el contraalmirante Woodward, comandante del grupo de batalla naval, explicaba la retirada de los días y decía:
lo que pasó es que desconocía el potencial de la Fuerza Aérea Argentina. No fue error mío. Cualquiera en mi lugar hubiera actuado como yo. Nada se pudo hacer contra la persistencia de los pilotos argentinos. Fue algo extraordinario. Aparecían por todas partes. Aprendimos a respetarlos.